I survived again. Old man Whitebeard did it right. Those were among Kaido's first lines in the series, of course referencing Whitebeard's blaze of glory death at Marineford, something we know that Kaido is envious of. But the idea that Whitebeard could go out the right way leaves the implication that somebody in Kaido's life went out the wrong way, and I believe that that person was Rox D. Xebec.
Savage.
One of the most prolific characters to speculate on over the past year has certainly been Rox D. Xebec, right? Because we don't know anything about him, barely. You know, most of the stuff that we know about him we learned from Sengoku. Sengoku, in my eyes, is not a reliable source, right? Because he's essentially coming from the perspective of the world government, and this is the same world government that tried to hide Rox's existence in the first place. These are the guys that are the kings of cover-ups, right? The Void Century. It's the biggest cover-up in the history of all time, right? What happened? Of course, it had to be some sort of a mass genocide. Otherwise, why would you want to cover it up? You have one kingdom, you have another kingdom. The other kingdom's jealous, wants to rule it all. You know, does some sort of a mass genocide, recreates the world in their own image, and then so on and so forth. There's a void century of just trying to stop anybody that remembers what it was. Then you create the poneglyphs, you know, little tidbits of the past saying, hey, you know, there actually was a time where these guys weren't in power. Here you have Sengoku that is basically telling us that Rox was the most evil guy in the world, right? Leading the most evil pirates. You know, I've seen speculation that Rox got his crew from doing Davy backfights, right? That's the only thing that makes sense. How did he get Kaido, Big Mom, Shiki, Whitebeard to fall in line with him, right? Well, what if he wasn't a bad guy at all? What if he was a good guy? What if he was like Luffy and drew these people to him? What if he had that magnetic of a personality? What if he had Luffy's ability to just get people to like him? What if he had that characteristic? You know, so that started, you know, getting me thinking, and of course we have the Kaido flashback looming. You know, we're not in it yet at the time of this recording, but I'm sure we're going to get it. And it's my belief that when we do get the Kaido flashback, that Rox will be at the center of it as the Shanks character, the Corazon character, the hero look character for Kaido. The person that Kaido looks up to the most. I think that we can look at what we know about Kaido to sort of get a picture of what Rox could be. And so what do we know about Kaido? Kaido is obsessed with suicide. He's obsessed with perseverance and earning clout, you know, like fighting for it, not having things handed to you. And I believe that Rox had a significant impact on Kaido's upbringing, his thoughts, and all of that. I think that Rox found out what the true history was, and I think that's what made him so dangerous to the world government. I think it's possible that he may have made it to Laugh Tale even before Roger did, with or without his crew, or somehow found out about the Void Century from some other means. Maybe Rox was from Ohara. Maybe he was the one that actually cracked it but didn't get a chance to tell the rest of Ohara, but inspired them to, you know, keep reading poneglyphs and things like that. We don't know enough to say, and I mean, it's all speculation. This whole video is basically just speculation. But hopefully it's a fun watch, fun read, something to get your mind thinking about things. I turn back to what Rayleigh said a lot to Luffy in Shaki's bar, you know, well, to the crew really. And he said that when you get there, you may come to a different conclusion than we did, right? Which leads me to believe that at some point we need to see someone have a different conclusion. You know, whether that's Blackbeard gets to Laugh Tale first and, you know, doesn't laugh. I want to see someone get to Laugh Tale and not laugh like Roger did. I want to see someone have a different conclusion. So that makes me think, you know, what if Rox did get there first and he didn't laugh? He got mad. Finds out about all of this stuff with Void history, finds out about any sort of potential genocide, finds out that Joy Boy wasn't able to free the slaves, and then, you know, here goes Rox Xebec on a mission to free the slaves, to stop the world government, to end the tyranny, right? But the thing is that he finds out that he's too early and too soon, like Roger does later on. But he's able to inspire Roger to go on the same journey that he did, right? Maybe Rox and Roger have a conversation that sort of piques that interest. Because Roger was a pirate for, you know, many years before he thought of trying to read the poneglyphs and go after, you know, the true history or anything like that. So something had to spark that. And he basically decided to do all of that after the God Valley incident. So, you know, he already had made it to Lodestar, found out that there's another island, potentially from Rox, and then, you know, toward the tail end of his life, when he's already in his 40s, he decides, okay, I want to do this loop around all over again, but I want to do it the right way. Finds Odin and says, hey, like, I need you to read this stuff. So there's the possibility for that. You know? And maybe that's why Roger laughs, because Rox sent him on this wild goose chase. But, you know, I mean, there's a whole bunch of different ways. I'm freestyling this. What if learning about the Void history and everything like that actually drove Rox mad? So he went from being this charismatic character that drew people in, that everybody loved, to turning into this tyrant. You know, because at the same time you have to think about a character like Whitebeard, right? And he wasn't an evil or inherently bad person at all. Even when we go into the Odin flashback. And I mean, like, what do we know about Whitebeard? You know, all of the money and everything that he got, he sent to Sphinx Island. All right, this is not a bad guy. Okay, Big Mom, at her core, right, wants to unite the world. She wants to bring people together. That's what Tatalan is. But I mean, like, she's doing it in a very, you know, not the best way. But then you have Kaido, who's kind of like this darkest timeline version of Rox, right? Whereas I believe Rox was trying to free the slaves and, you know, do something good for the world. Here is Kaido actively enslaving Wano and working with slavers and slave traders like Doflamingo, and, you know, CP0 is on Onigashima right now. We know that Doflamingo, you know, was the head of the entire slave trade on, you know, the archipelago and all of that. It's very possible that some of these Wano citizens that, you know, Odin was trying to dance and save, that, you know, Ace eventually came across and all of that in his flashback, probably made it, you know, their way through those auctions as well. So there has to be something that drove Kaido to that. But then there's also the element that Kaido wants the ancient weapons, right? So, and I mean, and who would he use the ancient weapons against other than the world government? So is Kaido playing some sort of long game and working with the world government only to turn on them later? There's a lot of questions to be had. Why did Kaido go to Marineford in the first place? That question brings up a lot of other questions. You know, was he there to save Ace? We know that he's buddy-buddy with CP0 and essentially the world government. Was he coming to help them against Whitebeard? Did he still look at Whitebeard as an ally from the Rox days and wanted to fight alongside him to save Ace? And then that brings up another question that is worth its, you know, entirely its own video. If that's the case, then it means that Shanks getting in the way of Kaido was that he was preventing Kaido from saving Ace, and in doing so, wanted Ace to die. But there is an element of Kaido to where he potentially could look at himself as the hero of his own story. What if making these weapons and doing all of this stuff, he thinks he's fulfilling Rox's will in some way? you take a look at the God Valley incident, right? Obviously something happened. Rox was there attacking celestial dragons. For whatever reason, Roger was there. Garp was likely on some sort of a detail protecting the celestial dragons. Whatever happened at the God Valley incident may be why Garp has a distaste for the celestial dragons. Perhaps he found out what Rox knew about them. What if Roger and, Garp were just really on the wrong side of all of this, but didn't find out until it was too late? And then, maybe out of guilt, that's what drove Roger to sort of understand where Rox was coming from. Maybe he left that much of an impression on him. But this idea of suicide that Kaido has, that he keeps going after, that makes me think that there had to have been some sort of suicide tie-in to his past, right? What if Rox committed suicide? What if that's how he died? He gave up. He chickened out. And that's why Kaido doesn't respect cowards. Because he looked up to this great man and watched the downfall of this man to the point where he actually, maybe even walked into the sea and let himself drown. Maybe the reason why he wanted the fruit from Big Mom and gave, into that lifelong debt was maybe Big Mom was holding on to the fish fruit that she had, right? And Kaido couldn't swim, but he wanted to be able to save Rox. So he begged Big Mom to eat the fruit so that he could save Rox. Big Mom was probably like, you know what, let him go. This is all tinfoil, of course. Basically doing fan fiction right now. But he eats the fruit, he goes under, and he can't swim, even though he ate a fish fruit. And he just watches Rox die also. I'm just trying to think of what is the worst, Oda flashback thing he could do, right? Have Kaido try to save this man, but wasn't able to, and then that could even tie into the Koi prophecy, right? To where Kaido had to somehow, through perseverance, get out of that water. Maybe he awakened at some point and became bigger and was able to just fly out of the water because he was that big. Who knows? I'm really just spitballing here, guys. But I just wanted to have this discussion piece and try and draw some things because, when you're trying to predict Oda or you're trying to speculate things, you got to understand that he's going to take something and he's going to flip it on its head, and he's going to it's a lot of misdirection with Oda. He's going to plant a seed, but then when he shows you it, he's going to actually turn it on its head. He's going to pull the cover out from under you, right? He's setting up Rox as this bad guy, and then maybe by the end of his life, he was a bad guy. But, crafting a good character, you have an arc. You go somewhere with it. So if you start Rox as this good character, you watch his downfall, by the end of it, you have something interesting, worthy of being even a lurking legend if that's what it's supposed to be. So just a food for thought video. What if Rox is a good guy? What if that's what we're going to get from Kaido's flashback? It's very possible in my mind that Rox believed himself to be Joy Boy, right? Knew the Joy Boy prophecy and wanted to fulfill it. And that's how characters like Kaido knew about it, and potentially even Whitebeard, and was able to fill in some of the gaps with this conversation with Roger, and they talk about enemy of the gods and all of this stuff. With this reveal of Nika, the sun god, right? It opens the idea that the Void Century started over a religious war. People that believed in the sun god, people that believed in potentially a moon god or a dragon god. We know that the celestial dragons their crest is a dragon's hoof. That's what they would put on their slaves. Joy Boy was a character that was destined to free the slaves. So, that's why I think that potentially Rox was a character that wanted to go up against the world government and free the slaves. That's how he was able to get someone as nice as Whitebeard to join his group. Even Big Mom, wanting to unite the world, probably at her core, wanted to free the slaves as well. Don't know about what Shiki's role in that, or, we don't know enough about Captain John or any of the other characters that were there. But, it's also pretty clear that Shaki was also a member of Rox, and she didn't seem like a bad person either. So, there's that element. Rox could have seen himself as Joy Boy. That's how Kaido knew about it. That's how he's expecting another Joy Boy. He was probably disappointed when he had a daughter instead of a son, and that's why, maybe we'll learn during the flashback whether or not the male pronouns that Yamato uses were forced upon him by Kaido or not. So I feel like there's something more to that, and it's not a straightforward Kiku situation where Kiku is just trans. So that's why we need more clarification when we get into all of that. We know that Kaido was experimented on, his lineage factor extracted in order to create the fruit that Momonosuke ate on Punk Hazard. CP0 clued us into more information about this, and now with the inclusion of Mads in the story, we finally have a name for the group for Vegapunk, Caesar Clown, Vince Smoke Judge, and now Queen. I'm very interested in the conversation that Kaido and Queen must have had in order for Queen to eventually become subservient to Kaido and fly under his flag. Whatever Kaido told Queen must have ties to Rox, the God Valley incident, the true history of the world, Joy Boy, something about why Wano was special to begin with. So I'm going to wrap it up there, right? Just a quick video, throw things at the wall. If it sticks, it sticks. If it doesn't, whatever. Thank you, Oda, for surprising me, right? If you like this content, hit subscribe, like, all that YouTube stuff. We do this a lot here, and it's all for fun. So I appreciate everybody that supports the channel. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the comments. Bye.
I've been swimming deep, deep. Savage.